They say it's the deepest cornerback class in years, and the Philadelphia Eagles obviously need a plethora of them. So, this is our quarterback show. You guys have been waiting for this. Brendan Albert is here. I'm Adrian Fedq. First question I got right out of the jump for you. Just how good is this class?
This is a special class. This is a very special class. Just talking about defensive backs here for a second here. I'm going to say we're probably going to have anywhere from 25 to 35, maybe even 40 in the first 3 rounds. We'll have that many defensive backs, which will be very, very large. Now, it's also a great example of what we talked about in the last show. We're seeing more nickel and dime packages for defenses, i.e. the value of being a defensive back is much higher now than it has been ever.
Yeah, for real. And now, you look at this situation. All right, so a team like the Eagles, they're picking at number 14. You got the injury now to Sidney Jones, so might determine what they do in the first round now. So your team like that, do you attack cornerback first round, or do you wait and say because this class is so deep, maybe you take a pair in the second and third? How would you play that?
Man, this is that's a great question, Adrian. And I don't want to give away too much of this stuff because on our mock draft coming up at 7:00 Eastern, I actually have the Eagles, so I don't want to give too much away here. But I'll tell you this, if we know there's a very deep defensive back draft, okay? We all can agree that. It's not super deep at other positions the Eagles really need, like a running back, for example. So if a running back is there and maybe your second highest or maybe even your third highest corner isn't there for the Eagles, then I think you take the running back and then you come back in the second round, you take the corner. Because in my opinion, guys, the gap between the second or third best running back to the fourth and fifth best running back is substantial. But the gap between the third, fourth corner and the fifth, sixth, seventh corner isn't that substantial. So that's why, to me, I would say, hey, let's go ahead and take the running back and let's get a corner later. But that's just my opinion.
Well, that's my thought process. That's what I've been saying the whole time is, you don't have to necessarily go cornerback in the first round. Especially, there's so many guys with first round value that you're going to get in the second round. So that's why I would go second, third round, go corners then. And in the first round, you go running back or, Derek Barnett or whatever you want to do, Reuben Foster, whatever, if he's there. That's the way I kind of look at it. Now, the thing that Joe Douglas was saying, which was kind of interesting, is like, well, just because there's a lot of depth doesn't mean you should still attack in the second and third rounds because there might be a run of cornerbacks that go in the first round. So what do you think about those comments?
Ooh, boy, that's a tough one, and I think this is always something that's interesting. I mean, the teams like the Ravens historically, the Patriots historically, who trade back, get those ammo of picks, if they see a run, those are the teams who are best suited to jump up and get someone. So, for where the Eagles are sitting, that's certainly a fair thought process. If you're sitting there and you're the Birds and you're thinking at 14 and you see maybe the top 3 corners are gone, I still don't think you reach and you take the 4th, 5th corner if you think the talent is much better at another position you can get in the first round. Because to me, the reason you draft early is because your team stinks, not because you don't have one player. So to me, I would rather draft up and get more talent. And then look what the Panthers did. They're going to play coverage with pressure. And I think that's a lot what the Eagles could do and be successful at. If they get a lot of pressure, suddenly those corners can look a lot better.
Yeah, for real. And that was a problem this year in Philly. Well, part of the problem was the cornerbacks were so bad, teams were getting the ball out real quick, so the pressure couldn't get there. So that was the problem. But, yeah, so, all right. This list for me was really tough to do. And it's because there's so much depth. So, like, my 5 guy isn't really going to be much different than my 10 guy. So it's really interesting. But the number 1 to me, I'm going to assume it's the number 1 for you. I think there's a clear-cut number 1. It's Marshawn Lattimore of Ohio State. Now, there's an exception. If he falls to number 14, doubt it's going to happen. But if he falls to number 14, that's the guy I would want in the first round for the Birds. But I just don't see that happening. So let's see. I guess I'll go with the scouting report first since you're such an expert. You're going to fucking take all my shit. So, all right, I think he's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got long arms, man-to-man cover quarter. And when I watch the tape, man, I don't see a lot of separation. You look at his tape compared to everyone else's, the separation is limited for him. He's got that speed, so he uses it to recover well. Very good ball skills. I really like Marshawn Lattimore.
Oh yeah. First off, if he's there at 14, the Eagles shouldn't use 1 second on the clock. They should be in a full-on dead sprint to the podium, screaming his
40, baby.
Away. Oh yeah. I mean, we'll see the fastest 40-yard dash time of the NFL by the guy running up the Eagles ticket to make sure Marshawn Lattimore is the pick for the Eagles at 14. But no, he's not going to be there. He's going to be a top 5 pick. To me, where it really excites me, and this is really my kind of cup of tea. I'm a defensive backs coach, and this is really where my comfort zone is. His best thing is he's got the best feet and the best hips in the draft, which is something that really, really is important for the draft. Great speed, which is obviously important. Physical tackler, probably also the best tackler. So it's pretty rare when we can say the best corner in the draft is the best tackler and the best cover guy. He's nasty SOB in the press. That's where he really makes his cup of tea. Now, the trade-offs, the concerns, he's only been a 1-year player. Had some hamstring issues, so bad. He actually had hamstring surgery his freshman year at Ohio State. So you got to make sure the medical guy clears that all the way through, okay? Now, he needs to improve at turning his head and tracking the ball earlier rather than later. He's one of those guys where he is exceptional reading the receiver's eyes and at the last second going up and attacking and flipping his head. I'd like to see him turn his head a little bit earlier because those are the things in the NFL. When he starts to play a Dez Bryant, the guys who are the vets and know how to work the corners with their eyes, he might struggle a little bit. He's a top 5 pick, though. He's a stud this year, no doubt in my mind.
Yeah. All right, my number 2 is Marlon Humphrey out of Alabama. Now, recently, Alabama cornerbacks have not fared in the NFL, but if you take Brendan's theory, it doesn't matter who the player is, or it doesn't matter what the school is. It's all about the player. So Marlon Humphrey for me is number 2. He's got again, like Lattimore, he's got size, speed, long arms, good in the press, fluid movement skills, really good. Well, I shouldn't say really good tackler, very aggressive tackler. Whenever you see the wide receiver screens against Alabama, Humphrey was, in on the tackle right away, always behind the line of scrimmage, it seemed like. But sometimes he doesn't wrap up, and that's a problem. So if there's a little weakness, it's that. And that's kind of what separates him a little bit from Lattimore to me, is the tackling.
Yeah, fair enough, Adrian. I'm not going to talk too much about Marlon right now because I'll get to him where I have him later. But my number 2 guy is Gareon Conley. Conley, to me, he is every bit better than any of the other guys in this draft. I think he is significantly the number 2 guy in this draft. There's a big gap after 1 and 2. To me, when you put his Michigan tape on, he looked pretty damn good, okay? What I mean by that is he looked like the leader. Watch him pre-snap, flick his head, and start barking at the outside backer, at the safeties, getting them aligned. It's extremely rare that the corner is aware of what the inside backers are doing, and he's telling the guys the alignments. So this dude, pre-snap, he's through the roof. What tells me film, zero concern. 6'6", 8 in the shuttle, which is dynamic. This is something that's really important because corners, more than any position in the NFL Combine, are affected by what those Combine numbers are. And we'll talk about Tease Tabor in a minute. But he did exceptional there, okay? Gets his head around extremely quick in the man turn. One of the better guys at doing this. Very, very important. Great length with 33-inch arms and is 40 in that 4.46. Usually, guys, if you are blindfolded and you're not told who a corner is, if you have a good 40-yard dash time, a good shuttle time, and long arms, usually the rest of the things are going to check out. So Conley checks all those boxes. That's the word. Solid tackler too. Okay. Now, the things he struggled with a little bit. When you watch teams like Michigan State, when you watch teams like Penn State, like Michigan, and the teams that are running those pro-style routes with the receivers, he struggled a little. Not end of the world concern, but he definitely struggled a little more than you would like to see. He definitely can get blocked easier, and he's clearly the off-man corner. Lattimore is definitely the more physical guy. Conley's the more the route reader. He plays off him a little bit. But to me, Conley's a top 15 pick in the draft.
Yeah, my concern with Conley is his tackling. I don't think he tackles really well, and that's going to lead to some big gains in the NFL. My other concern that I saw on tape, now I know this is your specialty, so call me out if I'm wrong. So he's got those 33-inch arms, but when he's in press, he gave up a lot of free releases. Didn't really jam at the line of scrimmage. Now he's more, you were talking off corner, but when he was in press, that was something that I noticed. A lot of free releases, and a guy with 33-inch arms, you'd think, you'd be better as a press guy.
Yeah. So I'll say this. First off, he definitely struggles in press, no doubt about it. Yeah. And I think his reason he struggles with press isn't necessarily his arms, because when I teach the corners I work with is you don't press with your hand, you press with your feet. Was really what you should be doing is you should be punching and sliding with your foot. Think about a boxer. If a boxer is standing there just throwing his arms and not opening his hips and opening his feet, he's got no power. It's the exact same thing in press, and that's something that Conley struggles with. He relies on using his reach to kind of push away rather than Lattimore, who wants to get inside and get freaking nasty with you right off the ball. Conley doesn't love that. So you're definitely not wrong there, Adrian, but his problem isn't necessarily with his upper body, it's with his lower body. I can work with that. I can teach that if I'm an NFL coach. That's not a concern for me. He's off-man corner. Personally, for me, I think it's easier to teach someone to be physical on the line of scrimmage in a press than it is for me to teach someone as an off-man corner. So I like Conley a lot.
Yeah. All right, so we've got our top two. Now it's time for number three. For me, my number three, nobody else is going to have him at number three, but I'm going to put him at number three. It's Sidney Jones. Obviously, we know about the Achilles tear. That's going to drop him. But for me, if I'm the Eagles in the second round and he's there, it's really hard for me to pass on him. And the reason why I take him in the second round, the Eagles aren't ready to win right now. You're looking at a team that's ready to win maybe 2 to 3 years from now. So by the time he's kind of ready to go, Carson Wentz will be more seasoned, offense will be better, defense will be better, and I think that would be a really good pick in the second round for the Eagles, even though he's hurt. So Sidney Jones, I'm really curious on what your thoughts are. How far is he going to fall?
I still think he'll be in the second round, maybe early third round. He's a special talent. He's a Marcus Peters kind of guy, and he's very, very good. I like him a ton. I think he probably would have been my second or third ranked corner before the injury. I actually didn't rank him in this show just because I didn't want to kind of misconstrue what's the top five versus where he's actually going to get drafted. But I like him a lot. I think it's extremely unfortunate. He's got a little short arms, which is a little bit of a concern, and he didn't run as fast as you would like, but he's a great technician.
His combine wasn't good.
Combine was not good, but he's definitely a technician. He's very, very fluid in his hips. So he's probably a second, third guy drafted.
Yeah, really good instincts too, I thought, when I watched him play. And yeah, so all right, so that's my number three. Maybe I should take him out. I don't know, but I don't know. All right, number three. Who's your number three then?
And let me kind of take a step back because I realized that's had a boo-boo. He's not the second, third guy drafted. Prior to his injury, he would have been the second or third guy drafted. Now he's probably in the second to third round. Now, my three guy, Quincy Wilson from Florida, okay? Similar to Lattimore, in that he's a big physical corner, wants to get nasty with you off the line and ride you in press. I think he actually has a potential to move to safety. So his value is very, very interesting to me because he's a great, great tackler. So I'm interested to see, could I move him to safety, use his route reading ability to be my safety with his physicality and go down in the box. That's interesting to me. So he's my three guy. Now, flip side of him, he's a tendency to not open up as soon as he should, especially on the vertical ball. Sometimes he stays in his pedal a little longer than I would have liked. In the NFL, you stay in your pedal too long, that ball's over your head. It's a touchdown, okay? He struggles to carry long, speedy routes, and he can get a little handsy down the field, but that's also because he doesn't open up long enough, and then he realizes, oh, shit, I'm beat. I have to hold him. So I wonder if he'd be better suited at moving to the safety where he's already deeper off the line of scrimmage. So Quincy Wilson's my three guy. He's probably a late first, but I like him a lot.
Okay, that's interesting because I remember before the show, I didn't want you to give anything away. I was like, yeah, the one guy I watched, I wasn't sure what to think was Quincy Wilson, and you got him at number three, so that's interesting. My number four is Conley, and we've kind of talked about him extensively, so I don't really need to get into him further. Who's your number four?
My four is Kevin King. Now, Kevin King, those similarities you're hearing all the time about Richard Sherman are 100% accurate. He's 6'3", but what blew me away, 6'5", 6 in that 20-yard shuttle. Okay, this is exceptional, exceptional, exceptional. Great job leaning on receivers in the vertical game. And what I mean by that is a lot of times you'll see a receiver take off and a corner be even with them. Now, what happens a lot is if it becomes a straight line speed, usually the receivers are faster than corners. But what Kevin King does is when that receiver takes off, that corner takes off, Kevin likes to lean on him a little bit, start to push him out of bounds. Now when that ball's in the air, Kevin King's the only guy eligible to be a receiver because that receiver he was guarding is 2 to 3 yards out of bounds. Great job at this. He has the best hands, in my opinion, of any of the corners. Makes some freaking dynamic catches.
He had a one-handed interception that was absolutely incredible. I forget who it was against, but it was in the end zone. It was awesome.
Yep. Back left pylon corner. I think it was against Arizona State, if I remember correctly, at UW. Now, the reason I love him so much, he's played all 5 defensive back positions, including the nickel spot. So his value is through the roof. Now, trade-off, because he definitely is the bigger guy, he gets a little handsy. He wants to be a little more physical than he probably should be. And I think he's actually a below-average tackler, which is something you should be a little surprised at. When you're the bigger guy, you should be the bigger tackler. He's a little stiff in his hips. So he's a little trouble sinking his ass and being able to blow through the receiver. Little too tall versus speed, which is a little bit of a concern for me. So he's another one. Maybe he moves to safety. But if you're a team who runs a lot of cover 3 zone looks and his job is just to be deeper than the deepest and then use his explosiveness to come downhill like Seattle, it makes a great sense. If the Seahawks end up trading Richard Sherman, or even if they don't and Kevin King's on the board and maybe the offensive line issues are gone, then I'm taking Kevin King to the Seahawks. I think he's a great, great fit there.
You mentioned the tackling, and this was something we kind of briefly talked about before the show as well. I feel like he's instinctive. He puts himself in position, but he doesn't always make the tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
I agree with that.
All right, number 5. Number 5 is the biggest boomer bust guy out of the cornerbacks. I've got Adoree Jackson. Now, when you watch the tape, he looked like shit this year. He got absolutely torched by John Ross. He looked like shit against Penn State as well. But you look at the ceiling for him, and you look at the skill set and what he could potentially bring. I'm seeing some Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie in his games, the explosiveness. And, you look at it, all right, he's like the perfect cornerback for a team that scores a bunch of points and is looking to get turnovers on defense. So he's going to get interceptions for you. He's very instinctive. And, he high points the ball almost better than a receiver. And he plays receiver. He plays everywhere, basically. So Adoree Jackson, people may not agree with me on that, but I think his ceiling, I think the potential, if you got a great cornerbacks coach, a great secondary coach to work with him, I think he could be really, really good at the next level.
Yeah. Adoree's my 7 guy. And the reason, and one thing I've used this analogy before, Adoree is a casino corner. And what I mean by that is he's a gambler. He's a big-time gambler. So, hence I call him the casino corner. For him, his best ability is off-man playing the trail tech. The trail technique essentially means you're intentionally running like a step behind that receiver, reading his hip, and once that receiver breaks down, his hips sink and he makes a move, Adoree undercuts things, which is a great example of why Adoree reminds you a lot of DRC. DRC is a casino corner too. So does it pay off? Absolutely. But here's the difference between him and DRC. DRC has freakishly long arms. He's probably closer to 34. Adoree's closer to 31. Adoree also came in much smaller in the weight and the height, which is a big, big concern for me because if you're playing the casino corner kind of style, you got to be long and you got to be able to be quick off the ball. His quickness is good, but his length's a little bit of a concern for me. I'm not a big fan of taking corners that are going to be gamblers in the first round. He's going to be a second-round guy. Now, the reason he's so high is he is no doubt the best return man in this draft. He's got 8 touchdowns in the return game. He walks into the NFL as a starter right now, and heck, he might be a Pro Bowl returner next year in the NFL Pro Bowl. But I think he's above average tackler, quick feet, great pattern reader. Again, in that trail tech, probably going to be a mid to low second round guy though.
Yeah, he was a guy that rose up my board because I didn't like him at first. I was just like, well, what the hell is it? What's so good about him? And then you watch the more tape. I'm like, okay, all right, I kind of see it. I see the potential, but a lot of his tape last year looks really bad. So just for warning in advance, there's something I'm seeing, but there's something I'm not seeing too, I guess. So
Sure.
all right, let's talk about some other guys because obviously this is a position that the Eagles need. They're going to need at least 2 cornerbacks. So I want to talk about Teez Tabor a little bit.
Okay.
All right, so what did he run? It was like 4.72 at his pro day or something. Really, really slow 40 time. What did Richard Sherman run? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember.
Okay. Well, basically, Teez Tabor is a guy that uses length, and he's a press guy. And with press guys, you don't necessarily have to be as fast. But does the 4.72 concern you still?
I'll just check. Richard Sherman ran a 4.56.
Okay. Well, never mind then.
Also, it's important to know Sherman came out as a receiver and then kind of converted.
Yeah.
But the thing about Mr. Tabor here is, as far as ball production, turnover guy, he's probably one of the best, if not the best, in this upcoming draft. I mean, he's really, really good. The guy he reminds me of, Rondé Barber, because he plays best physical in the flats. So if he can go somewhere where he's asked to play in the cover 2 look, not necessarily asked to get down the field and play with speed, that's where he's best at. Quick game stuff, he's going to own you. He's great burst right off the ball, but doesn't really carry guys well. Pretty darn good tackler, but, I mean, his thing is he wants to get the ball. So I think he's ultimately going to be a good fit in teams that run a lot of cover 2. I think he'll be end of the second, early third. But, again, if we see a team, use like the Bucks, who run a lot of cover 2 look, if they draft him, of high in the second, I'm not surprised by it because he's a better fit there than maybe someone like a Kevin King, for example.
Yeah. All right, let's talk Tre'Davious White, LSU. He's a guy that I saw played. I think he's the guy that played both slot and some outside.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at the versatility with him. He's really good when the ball's in the air. That's what I noticed. And, yeah, so other than that, what are your thoughts on him? I like him a little bit.
Yeah, Tre'Davious White's my 5 corner, and he, in my mind,
oh shit, we never said you're 5.
my 5. Last corner in the first round grade for me. Now with him, he's experienced coverage island corner. He's used to being one-on-one backside, which is a massive, massive bonus for me. Played a ton of slot, like you said, Adrian. Big bonus for me. He's a 3-year experience with a punt return at LSU. Big bonus for me. And here's the cool thing. For those of you who don't know, Temple, they take a lot of pride in you being a single-digit player. If you're a single-digit player, that means you were voted on by your teammates and your coaches at being one of the Temple tough guys. So it's a lot of pride if you're a single-digit player. At LSU, wearing the number 18 is a very, very important thing. The number 18 symbolizes success, selflessness, attitude on and off the field. He actually wore it for 2 years. So as far as how he's viewed by his teammates, as far as he plays on the field, I like him a lot. Flip side, he's definitely an off-man corner. Similar to how Conley is, he's not exactly a great guy in a press game, so depending on what you're going to ask him to do, he struggled with bigger body receivers. He did pretty well when he played a guy like Amari Cooper, who's not necessarily a huge body receiver, but he's a route runner and a good speed guy. But he struggled with bigger-bodied receivers, and he tackles when he wants to or when he has to, not when he wants to. He really doesn't want to get his nose dirty. So, and for me, he's end of the first-round guy, but he's my 5th corner drafted in the first round.
Yeah, he'd be my 6th guy. So he's right up there too. I mean, I really had a lot of trouble with number 5. I didn't know where to go. So I went with, the guy with the highest ceiling for me. So that's what I did. All right, let's talk. The best pair of cornerbacks were at Colorado. Actually, no, that's not a lot. That's false, actually. The second best cornerbacks were at Colorado because Ohio State had the best ones. But Chidobe Awuzie and what's the other guy's name? Weatherspoon. What's his first name? Forget his first name. But out of those two guys, Awuzie's the guy. It seems like you either love him or you hate him. It's it because when I look at these rankings lists, sometimes I see him in the top 5, and then there's other ones I don't even see him in the top 10.
Yeah, so what's interesting to me about him is the fact that he was invited to the NFL draft for Thursday night.
Because you might go first or third. Who knows?
Exactly. So it's very interesting to me that he's going to be there Thursday night. So typically, guys, as far as the invites go, usually what happens is the NFL and the big agencies, they kind of get a good pull or good feel from these coaches and these pro staffs about when these guys are going to get drafted before they say, yes, I'm going to attend. So that's kind of an interesting one to me. I didn't think he was a first-round guy, but now I'm starting to wonder, what's going on? Now, about his tape, he's one of the better zone cover guys. We talked about guys like White and Conley being more true man. If you're a team who runs a lot of zone, he's one of the better zone guys. So big bonus there. Great burst coming off the ball, and his pedal gets really quick downhill. Big thing. He matches up very well with speed. He actually did pretty well with John Ross when he had the opportunity to match up with him. Did a pretty good job there. He's definitely a quicker than fast guy, which again, plays a lot of experience in the zone situation where your job is to be deeper than the deepest in whatever your zone is. So I think that's pretty good. Gets a little handsy down the field. Not a major concern for me, but just a good example of, again, he's quicker than fast. But the biggest concern I have is he only had 3 interceptions in college. Tease Tabor, for example, he's a ball hawk. Here, he only had 3 interceptions in college. A little bit of a concern for me, for Mr. Awuzie.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Any other guys you kind of want to talk about? Any other, maybe some sleepers?
Before I get to my sleepers, I want to talk quickly about Marlon Humphrey.
Okay.
Marlon Humphrey actually was my 6th corner. And
wow.
I am not a Humphrey fan at all. The reason I'm not a fan for him is he's a little bit of a one-trick pony in the zone. I think he struggles heavily in man. And the biggest thing he struggles with is the vertical ball and finding it. Finding the ball, in space when you're going deep is one of those issues that's going to travel with you in the NFL. It's very, very hard to teach that. You would think it wouldn't be, but surprisingly, it's one of the harder things. So I'm a little bit of a concern for me. He's a good short coverage guy. Again, him and Tease Tabor are probably going to be those cover 2 kind of value team guys. So if you're a cover 2 team, you're probably thinking, okay, do I want Humphrey, who's probably the little more better tackler and the better zone coverage guy, or do I want Tease Tabor, who's definitely more of the ball hawk? To me, he's probably a mid-second round guy, though. Not a huge fan here of Marlon Humphrey.
Yeah, I agree about the ball skills. I do agree with that. Let's see. The sleeper, it's Shaquille Griffin. We've talked about him before. The UCF guy. I love what he did at the combine. He probably rose up some charts due to his combine performance. Ran well, and you look at that. I don't know what the drill's called, but when you backpedal and you flip your hips twice, I love the way he looked in that drill. His hips look really smooth, and obviously he's an AAC guy, so I've seen him a lot being a Temple guy. So I like Shaquille Griffin as that 4th to 5th round guy that might turn out pretty well in the NFL.
I agree with you, Adrian. He's one of my sleepers as well. He's very, very fluid in his movement, opening and running, very, very fluid there. Very good production player, too, as far as you look at his statistics. He doesn't necessarily a great interception guy, but he made a ton of pass breakups, which is still a very, very impressive thing. Good size, length, and speed. All checks out very, very well for me. He raises up a little bit sometimes, that one off man. Sometimes when he's in his pedal, he gets his ass a little high in the air, and now he struggles to get down again and sink and run. He struggled with speed, especially when he played Michigan. He's had a little bit of trouble there, okay? He lunges and press like Conley, doesn't move his feet extremely well there. So to me, I agree with you. He's probably in that 4th, 5th, 6th round, but he could be a guy who could become a very, very good special teams player in like gunner position, kickoff kind of things, and eventually find his way onto the field for full time.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to just throw some names at you because we don't really have time because we're doing our draft at 7. We still got to do safeties. So I'm just going to throw like 4 names, and you tell me who's the best one. So you got Rasul Douglas, West Virginia, Desmond King, Iowa, Cordrea Tankersley from Clemson, and Jordan Lewis from Michigan. Out of those 4, who do you think is the best one?
There's zero doubt in my mind. It's Desmond King. I have zero doubt in my mind. Desmond King is a guy I really, really love. I think he might be a better fit moving to safety next year, but 14 interceptions in college. Yeah. He should have came out last year, and he opted not to. When you put on the Michigan tape, he was the better player, not Jaleel Peppers. He was a better defensive back by far. Iron Man, And what I mean by that is he played in 94% of Iowa's defensive snaps, and he played in 46% of Iowa's special team snaps. So he's a dude who's ready to come into the NFL and flat out play. He's not a straight line speed guy, so don't ask him to be one-on-one in the backside and win against the 9 route. Below average foot speed and hips, which is why he's dropping into the second and third round. But I think you move him to safety, his ball skills, his ability to read the play, I think his value as a free safety is going to be extremely high. I love Desmond King. He's my biggest sleeper I have in the draft.
Boom. There it is. And that was my number one guy that those 4 as well. So Desmond King. I know there's some guys in the Bitter Birds commenters that like Desmond King. So they've made it known. Anybody else you want to talk about?
That'll be it. I mean, I don't want to kind of open up too much because we're going to talk a little bit what the Eagles are going to do here shortly, but I also want to talk about safeties quick too.
Yeah. You talking Eagles right now, or are you talking for the mock draft?
Let's hold it off for the mock draft.
Okay. All right. That's what I thought you meant. All right. So we're going to end this one right now. We're going to do safeties next. We'll keep that one short. So that's what it is. All right. Brendan Albert, I'm Adrian Fedke. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let us know in the comment section below. Who are your top 5 cornerbacks? Because that's what Philly needs most.
Yeah. Big time need.
Oh, yeah. Later.